Angela Davis stepped out of her car just as the sun peeked over the line of tall oaks by the parking lot. She took a slow breath of the fresh morning air. She had chosen this moment carefully. It was her first day as CEO of Velocity Motors. Had dressed in a neat black suit that matched her polished shoes. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail. In her hand, she carried a slim leather folder with all her notes for the day. Everything felt right. She smiled to herself. Today would mark the start of something new. She walked up the clean sidewalk that led to the glass doors of the dealership. The big silver letters above the entrance spelled out Velocity Motors. She had driven by here every day for years when she was still working in a smaller office downtown. Now, she owned everything inside, yet as she held out her hand to push the door, she felt her heart beat a little faster. She pictured the team waiting to greet her. She pictured friendly faces. She pictured respect. When the door slid open, the lobby felt bright and welcoming. A tall vase held fresh flowers on a low table beside the chairs. A glossy brochure rack stood near the coffee station, where the smell of brewing coffee drifted softly across the room. On the cream-colored walls hung photos of happy customers next to their new cars. Everything looked normal and calm. She took a step inside and let the door close behind her. The receptionist sat at a desk behind a counter of warm wood. She glanced up as Angela approached. Angela offered a warm smile and said, "Good morning. I'm Angela Davis, the new CEO. I'd like to come in for a quick tour and to meet the team." She lifted her leather folder to show her name badge clipped inside the front pocket of her jacket. The receptionist's eyes flicked to Angela's badge, then went down again as if she doubted what she saw. Angela waited. Receptionist tapped a few keys on her keyboard without speaking. She kept her eyes on the monitor. After a moment, the receptionist said, "Let me check if anyone is ready for you. Please have a seat." Angela nodded politely. She stepped back toward the chairs. She had planned to stand, but she remembered how the board had asked her to make a good first impression. She moved toward one of the light gray armchairs. As she reached for the armrest, the receptionist spoke again in a low voice. "Actually, ma'am, you need an appointment. Even the CEO needs to schedule." Angela paused, surprised by the choice of words. She pressed her lips together and felt a quick spark of anger. Instead, she took a steady breath and said, "I was invited by the board. They emailed me yesterday, and I accepted. I am here now." The receptionist frowned slightly and said, "I'm sorry. Let me see that email." She pointed to a small screen on her desk. Angela raised her folder and opened it carefully. She lifted the printed email and held it at eye level so the receptionist could read the header. The receptionist leaned over the counter, squinted, then shook her head. "This is email for corporate in another city," she said. "You need someone here to approve you." Angela's chest tightened. Her palms felt warm. She wanted to feel calm, but the words stung. She thought of the long nights she had spent preparing for this role. She thought of the women in her family who had fought for every door to open for them. She thought of her own path, from small-town beginnings to the head of a major car company. In her mind, she repeated a quiet mantra: "Stay calm, stay strong." Then a man in a red tie pushed open a door behind the reception area and stepped into the lobby. He wore a crisp white shirt and polished black shoes. He carried a clipboard. She recognized him from the charts she studied last night. He was Patrick Moore, the top sales manager. She had read about his strong sales record over the past 5 years. He approached with a smile, but when he saw Angela, he stopped in his tracks. "Good morning," she said, holding out her hand.
Ow.
"I'm Angela Davis, the new CEO." She waited for his smile to return, or for him to shake her hand. Instead, he shook his head slightly and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. This is a private event. You need an appointment. I can set you up for another time." His tone was polite, but his eyes betrayed confusion. He looked down at her badge quickly, then back at her face. Neither smile nor apology came. Angela lowered her hand. She felt a sudden wave of hurt. The lobby felt too bright. The flowers smelled too sweet. The photos on the wall seemed to mock her success. She found it hard to believe that this man, in front of her face, could not see that she owned this place now. She felt a flash of pain in her chest. She forced herself to stand straight. She spoke clearly but softly. "I don't need another appointment. I am the CEO. Please call the general manager. I would like to speak with him right now." She reached inside her jacket to touch the badge again, as if that small plastic card could prove her title beyond doubt. The sales manager glanced at the receptionist, who met his eyes before returning to her screen. He swallowed and cleared his throat. "I'm afraid I can't help you," he said, his voice steady. "Maybe you could try tomorrow." He turned and walked away, leaving Angela alone near the chairs. Angela watched him leave. She felt stunned for a moment. Then she glanced around. A few salespeople stood near the coffee station. One of them glanced at her, then looked away quickly when she caught his eye. Another tapped her phone and smiled at something on the screen. No one came to help. No one offered to open a door or guide her further into the building. They treated her as if she were a stranger. She closed her folder and set it on one of the armrests. She folded her hands in her lap, squared her shoulders, and waited. She lifted her eyes to the clock. On the wall above the door, it ticked quietly. She could hear each second pass. She watched for 3 minutes. With each tick, her hurt grew, but so did her resolve. Angela thought back to 10 days ago when the board had gathered in the big conference room downtown. She remembered how her heart had pounded as she walked in to face 15 stern faces around a long mahogany table. She remembered how she had taken a breath and presented her vision for Velocity Motors, a place where every customer felt welcome no matter their background, race, or gender. She remembered the nods of agreement as she spoke, the sparkle in the eyes of some board members who believed in change. She remembered the moment at the end of her talk when the board chair stood, placed his hand on her arm, and said, "Angela, we believe you are exactly who we need to lead us forward." She felt pride then. She felt the weight of responsibility. She felt honored, and she felt certain she could make a real difference. Now she sat in this lobby, feeling as though none of that mattered. She felt alone, though she knew her chief of staff, her leadership team, and the board awaited her arrival. She wondered how many people inside truly knew who she was. She wondered how many saw her as a stranger, just another face in the building. She closed her eyes for a moment and breathed deeply. She let the hurt come, then she let it go. She thought of her young niece, who watched her with wide eyes when she got the job. Thought of her mother, who had worked 2 jobs to pay for Angela's college tuition. She thought of her colleagues who were counting on her to build a fair workplace. She thought of her promise to make Velocity Motors a place where respect came first. Angela opened her eyes. The receptionist was still at her desk, looking at her screen. The sales manager had not come back. No one spoke. The clock continued its tick. She rose from the chair and set her leather folder in her other hand. She lifted her head and squared her shoulders once more. She would not leave. She would not threaten or scold, but she would not back down. She stepped forward and spoke in a calm voice. "Please have someone here who can confirm my identity. I need to go inside." She waited. Silence answered her words. The receptionist clicked her keyboard. The sales manager peeked from behind the door, but did not step forward. Angela felt her pulse steady. Her first act as CEO would be to face this small injustice with dignity and courage. She locked eyes on the receptionist and said quietly, "I will wait until someone comes." And so she stood patiently in the bright lobby, watching the clock, feeling the weight of her new role on her shoulders, ready to claim the place that was rightfully hers. ChatGPT said. Angela stood in the quiet lobby and watched the receptionist type on her keyboard. The sales manager had not returned. She felt the tension in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out her phone. Her thumb tapped on the screen until she found the picture of her chief of staff, Marcus Bennett. She pressed the call button and held the phone to her ear. Marcus answered on the first ring. His voice was warm but surprised. "Angela, you're here already?" She kept her voice low and steady. "Yes, Marcus. I'm at the dealership, but they won't let me in. They say I need an appointment." There was a short pause. Angela could imagine Marcus sketching the situation in his mind. He had managed her schedule for years, keeping the details in order. She trusted him completely. "I'll be there right away," he said. "Stay where you are." Angela ended the call and slipped the phone back into her pocket. She crossed her arms gently and waited. The lobby clock ticked on. Glanced up once, met Angela's calm gaze, then looked away. Angela imagined the moment she would smile at the receptionist and thank her. For now, she would stand quietly.
After
What felt like just a few seconds, but was really almost 2 minutes. The glass doors at the entrance swung open. Marcus walked through wearing a dark suit that fit him perfectly. His shoes made soft taps on the polished tile floor. Angela saw relief wash over his face when he spotted her standing by the armchairs. "Angela," he said, hurrying forward. He reached for her hand and gave it a quick, reassuring squeeze. "Are you all right?" She nodded. "I'm fine. They just won't let me in." Marcus frowned and turned toward the receptionist. He smiled politely. "Good morning. I'm Marcus Bennett, Chief of Staff to our new CEO. She's Angela Davis. I believe there may be a misunderstanding." Receptionist kept her eyes on the screen. Marcus waited. Finally, she said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. Our system did not have her listed. It said she needed an appointment." Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly, but he kept his tone even. "The email came from corporate, but they should have forwarded it here. I have it on my phone." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his own phone. He opened the email and handed the screen to the receptionist. She leaned forward and read the first line. Her fingers tapped the keyboard. Then she looked up. "At Marcus, it's here. I'm sorry. The system needed to be updated. You may both proceed." Marcus offered Angela a small, triumphant smile. Angela returned his smile, though relief and frustration mixed inside her. She nodded to the receptionist. "Thank you," she said. She followed Marcus past the counter, feeling the smoothness of the tile under her shoes. She stepped through the doorway into the back office area. The air felt cooler here, and she could hear the soft hum of computers and the low murmur of voices. She recognized a few familiar faces from photos she had seen, but no one stopped her. She walked confidently down the corridor. Marcus led her to a small glass office at the end of the hall. The door bore the name Ms. Patel, Regional Director. Marcus knocked gently. A voice called, "Come in." He pushed the door open and gestured. For Angela to enter, Patel stood by a long table where papers and a laptop lay. She was in her late 40s, with dark hair pulled back, wearing a navy blazer and a thoughtful expression. When she saw Angela, her eyes widened for a moment. Then she returned a warm smile. "Angela, welcome," Ms. Patel said, moving around the table to greet her. She offered her hand, and Angela shook it. "I'm sorry you had to wait. There was a glitch in the system." Jula inclined her head. "Thank you for seeing me so quickly. I appreciate it." Ms. Patel gestured to a chair. "Please sit. Let's talk about what happened, and then we can start your tour." Angela sat and placed her folder on the table. Marcus stood nearby. Leaning slightly against the wall, Angela felt grateful for his presence and the support he offered. She took a deep breath and explained clearly what had happened in the lobby. "I showed my badge," she said. "I told them I was the new CEO, but they acted as if I were a visitor who needed an appointment. The sales manager told me to come. Back another day." Ms. Patel frowned, then turned to Marcus and asked quietly, "Which manager was that?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Patrick Moore, the head of sales." Ms. Patel's expression hardened slightly. She opened her laptop and called up a screen showing the staff directory. She clicked on Patrick's name. "Haven't met him yet," she said. "He must have been acting on incorrect information. That is no excuse for how he treated you." Angela felt a twinge of relief. She had not wanted to embarrass anyone in front of all the staff, but she needed Ms. Patel to know exactly what happened. She heard herself say, "I understand mistakes happen, but I want people here to feel safe and respected. I won't accept anything less." Ms. Patel nodded, her eyes steady on Angela's face. "Of course you're right. We need respect at every level. I will address this immediately." She reached back to the desk and picked up the phone. She dialed a number and waited. After a few moments, she spoke to someone in the hallway. Patrick, meet me in my office right now. She hung up and turned to Angela. He'll be here in a moment. Marcus straightened up and smiled at Angela. We'll fix this, he said softly. Angela nodded. She felt stronger now that Ms. Patel was on her side. The tension in her chest eased a bit. She closed her eyes briefly, breathing in slowly through her nose and out through her mouth. A few minutes passed. The door opened and Patrick Moore entered. Looking surprised to see Angela and Ms. Patel together, he paused at the threshold and cleared his throat. Miss Patel, he said, his voice polite but with a hint of uncertainty, you wanted to see me? Ms. Patel stood and gestured for him to come forward. Yes, Patrick. Please have a seat. She slid into the chair Angela had been sitting in while Angela moved to one side of the table. Patrick sat down, placing his clipboard on the table. He looked at Angela. Ms. Davis, I'm sorry about the confusion. I did not realize you were here. He turned to Ms. Patel. Your system did not show her name. I was just following the rules. Angela watched him carefully. She did not want anger. She wanted understanding, she said quietly. Patrick, I know you were doing your job, but I want you to know that when you looked at me and refused to let me in, I felt invisible. Patrick lowered his eyes. He rubbed the back of his neck. You're right, I'm sorry. I see now that I should have asked questions. I should have been more flexible. Miss Patel nodded. This is a learning moment. Tomorrow, we will have a meeting with the front desk and sales team. We'll update our system and talk about how to treat every visitor with respect. Angela felt her heart lighten. She had feared a harsh reaction or a cold formality, but instead Patrick was admitting his mistake, and Miss Patel was handling it with care. She said, thank you. That means a lot. I want to build a team that listens and learns. Patrick glanced at Angela. I want to help make things right. If there is anything I can do, please tell me. Angela smiled at him. It was a small but genuine smile. Thank you, Patrick. Just start by welcoming people when they come in. That is a good start. Patrick nodded. Ms. Patel looked at them both and said, now that we have that settled, let's begin the tour. Angela, would you like to start with the showroom or the service area? Angela rose from her chair and folded her arms comfortably. She felt a new sense of authority and a sense of responsibility. She looked at Patrick, and then at Ms. Patel. Let's go to the showroom first. I would like to see our latest models. They walked out of the office together. As they passed through the hallway, a few employees glanced up and returned to their work. Angela felt the curious eyes on her, but now she felt ready to meet them. She felt sure that this day would not just be about a glitch or a rude moment. It would be the start of a new chapter, a chance to shape a culture of respect and inclusion. Marcus fell in step beside her. He whispered, you handled that well. Angela nodded. Thank you for coming. I needed that. He smiled broadly. Always. Together, they stepped into the bright space of the showroom. Rows of cars gleamed under the lights. Sales desks lined the walls. The scent of new car leather mixed with a faint hint of fresh paint. The room felt alive, full of possibility. Angela took a deep breath and walked forward, ready to lead. Angela stepped into the bright showroom with Marcus and Ms. Patel close behind. The polished floor reflected the rows of gleaming cars. The sunlight streamed in through large windows, making the metal surfaces sparkle. A few salespeople at their desks looked up as Angela entered. She smiled and nodded at them. They returned her greeting with slight bows of their heads. Angela felt a warm glow at their respect. She moved slowly between the cars, touching the smooth hood of a new sedan. Its paint felt cool under her fingertips. She imagined a customer running their hand along the same surface and feeling excitement. She turned to Ms. Patel. These models look great, she said softly. But I want our customers to feel more than excitement. I want them to feel welcome from the moment they walk in. Ms. Patel nodded. Of course. We have plans for a new welcome desk, with updated signage and friendly greeters. We want every visitor to feel at home. Angela smiled. That is a good start. Let us talk to the team here. She motioned to a small group of sales staff standing near a display. A young man in a blue shirt held a tablet and pointed at a car spec sheet. He looked surprised when Angela approached. Good morning, Angela said kindly. I am Angela Davis, CEO. May I ask your name? The young man cleared his throat. I'm David Walker, ma'am. I manage the digital inventory displays. Angela nodded. David, I have seen your work online. These digital panels are very helpful. I want to thank you for your effort. David blinked and swallowed. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Angela placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You have talent. I want you to help train the rest of the staff on these displays. David's eyes lit up. I would be honored. Angela turned to the rest of the group. Come on, all of you, I want your ideas. What can we do to make this showroom better for our customers? A woman with short brown hair spoke up. Her voice was soft but clear. We could add a lounge area with comfortable chairs and coffee. Some customers wait a long time for service. Angela nodded thoughtfully. A waiting lounge is a great idea. Let us plan for that. And I want you to write down any other ideas you have. I will review them next week. The group nodded and began scribbling notes. Angela watched them, feeling a sense of connection. She felt proud to stand among these team members to invite their ideas. After a few minutes, Ms. Patel spoke quietly to Angela. Would you like to see the service area next? Angela smiled. Yes, please. She walked down a wide corridor with Marcus and Ms. Patel at her side. The bright showroom gave way to a more utilitarian space. The floor was concrete, and the walls held tools and spare parts. Technicians in blue overalls worked under the raised hoods of cars. The sound of power tools hummed softly. A gentle smell of machine oil and rubber mixed in the air. Angela approached one technician who was tightening a bolt under a car. She knelt beside him and introduced herself. Hello, I'm Angela Davis. Thank you for your hard work. The technician looked up and wiped sweat from his brow. Ma'am, I'm Eddie Johnson. Nice to meet you. Angela smiled at Eddie. Eddie, how long have you worked here? Eddie stood and brushed his hands on a rag. For years, ma'am. I started as an apprentice. Angela felt respect for his years of service. For years is a long time. You know this place very well. I want to learn from you. Tell me, what frustrates you about your work environment? Eddie scratched his head and thought. Sometimes we don't get supplies on time. You have to wait for parts, and that slows us down. Other times the bays get too crowded and it can get unsafe. Angela nodded, absorbing his words. Delays. And crowding can hurt our customers and our team. I will work with Marcus and Ms. Patel to improve the ordering system and reorganize the bays. Eddie's face lit up. That would help a lot, ma'am. Angela touched his arm kindly. Thank you for telling me. We'll fix this together. She moved on to another technician who was checking tire pressure. She introduced herself, asked his name, and listened to his suggestions. She spoke to several team members in the service area, gathering ideas and offering gratitude. Everyone she met smiled when she asked questions, their confidence growing as they realized she valued their input. As she reached the end of the bay, Marcus paused and said quietly, Angela, we have a small conference room here. They laid out some of your leadership materials. Angela followed him into the tidy conference room. A table in the center held printed copies of her vision statement, company values, and new training plans. She walked around the table, reading each sheet. Her plans spoke of respect, inclusion, excellence, and innovation. She thought of how these words would translate into everyday work here. Ms. Patel stood beside her. We prepared these based on your proposals. You thought they would be useful for your first meeting with department heads. Angela nodded. This looks good. I want to add a section on recognition, how we celebrate our team's successes. Let us plan monthly staff awards. Ms. Patel smiled. Excellent idea. We'll add that. After reviewing the materials, Angela stood at the head of the table and addressed Marcus and Ms. Patel. Thank you for preparing this. Tomorrow morning, I will meet with each department head. I want to hear their thoughts on these values and share my vision personally. Marcus tapped a sheet. I have scheduled time slots for each head. We can begin at 9 sharp. Angela looked at her watch. It was nearly 11. She smiled. Perfect. That gives me time after lunch to visit the parts department. Three of them left the conference room and retraced their steps through the service area. As they passed the entrance to the parts room, Angela paused. She saw a sign that read Parts Inventory and a doorway. She motioned for them to stop. "I'd like to see how we manage parts," she said. "It's where Eddie's supply. Delays begin." They entered the parts room. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with boxes and labeled bins. A parts manager sat at a desk typing on a computer. She looked up when Angela approached. "Hello, I'm Angela Davis, CEO." Angela said. The parts manager's eyes widened with surprise. "I'm Maria Hernandez," she said, standing. "It's an honor to meet you." Angela smiled. "Thank you for your work." "Maria, can you walk me through your process for ordering and stocking parts?" Maria led Angela to a large spreadsheet pinned to the wall. She explained how she tracked orders and how she dealt with back orders. She pointed to items marked in red. Those were parts on hold. Maria spoke with confidence, though she looked tired. Angela listened carefully, asked questions about reorder points, lead times, and safety, stock levels. She realized the process was manual, relying on Maria to spot low inventory by checking the spreadsheet each day. She thought of how software could automate much of that work. When Maria finished, Angela said, "I appreciate your hard work. Maria, let me explore options for an automated system. It will make your job easier and help our technicians avoid delays." Maria looked relieved. "That would be wonderful, ma'am." Angela stepped back and surveyed the parts room. She felt a sense of progress everywhere she turned. People gave her their ideas and hopes. She felt proud to lead a team so willing to share. As they left the parts room, Marcus glanced at Angela. "We have one more stop, the break room. The team has prepared a small welcome event for you at 1. Angela laughed softly. "That sounds perfect." They walked down the corridor toward the back. The hum of conversations grew softer as they neared the break room. Angela felt her stomach rumble. It had been nearly 6 hours since breakfast, but she held off on lunch until she met with each department head. Before entering, Angela turned to Ms. Patel. "Thank you for guiding me through the dealership. I feel I know my team better already." Ms. Patel smiled warmly. "It's my pleasure. Your hands-on approach means a lot." Angela took a deep breath and pushed open the door to the break room. A banner hung across the wall that read, "Welcome, Angela," in colorful letters. A table along one side held sandwiches, fruit, and coffee. A group of staff members stood nearby, clapping softly as Angela entered. She walked to the center of the room, her heart full. She smiled and said, "Thank you, everyone. Today has been a whirlwind, but meeting you all has been the best part. I look forward to working with you to make this dealership a place of pride for customers and for us as a team." The staff cheered and offered applause. Angela felt her eyes prick with joy. She realized her first day as CEO would be remembered not for the earlier misunderstanding, but for this moment when she and her team came together in true unity. And with that moment, Angela knew the real work was just beginning. She would build on this day to shape a future of respect, collaboration, and success for everyone at Velocity Motors. Angela made her way back to the main office area after the welcome event. Her heart felt light, but she knew there was still important work ahead. She had promised to meet with each department head, and now it was time. Marcus checked his watch and smiled. "Your next meeting is with the finance head, Mr. Liu. He's in his office down this hall."
Wow.
They walked together through the quiet hallway. The walls were lined with framed photos of past dealerships opening, prize ceremonies, and community events. Angela stopped to look at a photo of the dealership's 10th anniversary celebration. She remembered reading about how the team had invited local families and donated cars for a charity raffle. She felt proud to be part of this history and excited to shape its future. They arrived at a simple wooden door with a small nameplate, "Samuel Liu, Head of Finance." Marcus knocked twice gently. "Come in," a calm voice answered. Angela opened the door and stepped inside. The room was neat and organized. A large desk held spreadsheets, reports, and a laptop. Mr. Liu stood to greet her. He was in his 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes behind rectangular glasses. "Good afternoon, Ms. Davis," he said, extending his hand.
I've heard a lot about you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, Angela replied warmly as she shook his hand. I appreciate you taking the time to meet today. Mr. Liu gestured to a chair. Angela and Marcus sat while Mr. Liu returned to his desk. He opened a folder and spread out a series of financial reports. I prepared these for our discussion, he said. They cover our monthly sales, expenses, and a forecast for the next quarter. Angela looked at the reports. The numbers showed healthy profits, but also rising costs in parts and labor. She pointed to a section. Our parts cost is gone, up by 10% in the last 2 months. Does that tie back to the delays we heard about earlier? Mr. Liu nodded. Yes, when parts are delayed, we often pay rush fees to get them quickly. It adds to our costs. Our labor hours also increase, because technicians wait for parts and then work overtime. Angela sighed softly. She thought of Eddie and Maria and how their hard work met obstacles. Want to reduce those rush fees and overtime. We'll automate the parts ordering as we discussed. Could you help me model the cost savings? Mr. Liu smiled. Definitely. I can work with your team to run scenarios. If we cut our rush fees by 50%, we could save thousands monthly. Angela leaned forward. Let us aim for that. I want to see a new report in 2 weeks showing projected savings. Then we can share it with everyone. Mr. Liu made a note. Understood. I will prepare it. Angela looked at Marcus and then at Mr. Liu. Thank you for your work. Your team keeps this place running smoothly. Mr. Liu's eyes lit up. Thank you, Ms. Davis. I appreciate your support. They stood. Angela shook his hand again and left the office. Next was the marketing head, Ms. Reyes. Marcus led the way to a bright office with colorful posters on the walls. Showed happy families beside new cars, social media ads, and community outreach flyers. They entered and found Ms. Reyes at her desk. She stood quickly and greeted Angela with a warm smile. She was in her 40s, energetic and creative. Ms. Davis, welcome to my world, she said, laughing softly. Angela smiled back. Thank you for meeting with me. I'd love to hear your ideas for our marketing strategy. Ms. Reyes motioned to a whiteboard where she had sketched a plan. It showed 4 areas: online ads, community events, customer stories, and loyalty programs. Our goal is to connect with our community more deeply, she explained. We want to showcase real customer stories like yours, Ms. Davis, so people see themselves here. Angela nodded. I love that. Real stories build trust. She tapped a marker and wrote customer ambassadors on the board. What if we invite satisfied customers to share their experiences on video? We could host a small filming event here. Ms. Reyes clapped softly. Great idea. We can even feature employees who go above and beyond. We'll show the human side of Velocity Motors. Angela felt excited. They talked for several minutes, discussing timelines, budgets, and roles. Before leaving, Angela said, let us plan to launch the first customer video in 4 weeks. I will join you for the filming. Ms. Reyes beamed. I look forward to it. Angela moved on to meet the head of human resources, Mr. Carter. He worked in a modest office with a bookshelf full of manuals and employee handbooks. He was in his 60s, with a calm and gentle manner. Ms. Davis, he said as she entered. Good afternoon. He offered his hand. Angela shook it and sat down. Marcus stood nearby. Mr. Carter opened a file. I wanted to discuss our staff training and development programs. We have annual reviews, but I believe we can do more to support career growth. Angela nodded. I agree. I want our people to grow here. What programs do we have now? Mr. Carter spoke about leadership workshops, safety training, and a tuition reimbursement plan. He pointed out low participation in some programs. Many employees do not know about these benefits, he said. Angela leaned forward. We need better communication. Let us roll out a monthly newsletter highlighting development opportunities and success stories. I will contribute a message about my own career path. Mr. Carter smiled. That will inspire many. Angela stood and shook his hand. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I appreciate your work. Her final meeting was with the head of customer service, Ms. Evans. They went to a room with a large call center view through a glass window. They watched agents answer phones and type notes. They entered, and Ms. Evans welcomed them. She spoke kindly. "Ms. Davis, thank you for joining me." Angela nodded. "I want to understand our customer service challenges," Ms. Evans shared. "Call response times, common complaints, and satisfaction scores." Many customers praised the service team's kindness, but noted long hold times. Angela listened attentively. "Can we update our phone system to offer callback options?" Customers hate holding on. Ms. Evans's eyes lit up. "Yes, that feature would reduce stress for us and for customers." They talked about next steps. Before leaving, Angela said, "Let us aim to implement the callback feature within a month. Share your timeline with Marcus." After the last meeting, Marcus and Angela stepped into a quiet hallway. It was late afternoon. The fading sunlight filtered through the windows. Marcus turned to Angela. "You handled those meetings wonderfully." Angela smiled but felt tired. It had been a full day.
You, Marcus.
"I learned so much about our team. Tomorrow, we will adjust our plans based on these discussions." They walked toward the exit for the day. As they neared the lobby, Angela paused and looked back down the hall. She thought of how the day had begun, with misunderstanding and doubt, and how it ended with clear direction and unity. She felt pride for her team and hope for the future. In the lobby, the receptionist looked up and smiled warmly. Angela returned the smile and said, "Good evening. Thank you for your help today." The receptionist nodded and said, "Have a good evening, Ms. Davis." Angela felt that something had shifted. An unspoken respect filled the room. She had claimed her place, not by force, but by listening, learning, and leading with care. Outside, the sun had almost set. The sky glowed in soft pinks and purples. Angela and Marcus walked to the car. She opened the door and took a deep breath of the cool evening air. Marcus asked, "How do you feel?" Angela smiled as she buckled her seatbelt. "I feel ready. Tomorrow we begin again, but today was a strong start." Marcus nodded and started the engine. The car moved down the driveway of Velocity Motors. Behind them, the dealership lights came on, shining bright against the dusk sky. Angela looked ahead and whispered, "We are on our way." And with that promise, she watched the road, hopeful for the journey ahead, knowing that together, they would drive Velocity Motors toward a brighter future. Angela woke early the next morning with the sun just peeking through her bedroom curtains. She felt a gentle excitement in her chest. Yesterday had been full already, but she knew the real work lay ahead. She dressed in a navy dress that made her feel both professional and comfortable. She touched her badge pinned neatly to her lapel before heading out the door. The drive to the dealership was quiet. The streets were calm in the early hour. As she neared Velocity Motors, she saw the parking lot almost empty. The clean lines of the building stood against the clear sky. She parked near the entrance and took a deep breath. Today, she would launch the training program she promised. She would share the vision with everyone and celebrate the small victories from the start. Inside the lobby, a few employees arrived for work. A young man at the reception desk gave her a bright smile. Angela returned the smile and said, "Good morning, ready for today?" He nodded and said, "Yes, Ms. Davis, all set for the launch." Angela felt warmth spread through her. She stepped forward and turned toward the large open space behind the reception area. They had set up chairs facing a small stage area with a podium. A banner above the stage read Velocity Motors, a culture of respect. On the side table, there were coffee urns, pastries, and fruit. A few team members in bright polo shirts greeted her. She thanked each one and felt their energy. She walked onto the stage, tapped the microphone gently, and waited for the chatter to fade. When the room grew quiet, she began softly. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Yesterday, we began a journey together. We talked, we listened, and we shared ideas. Today, we take our next step." She paused and looked at the faces before her. Some wore curiosity, others eagerness, and a few nervous smiles. She continued, "I promise to create a workplace of respect and inclusion. I want each of you to feel valued and heard. Today, we launch our new training program on kindness, communication, and bias awareness. A ripple of applause greeted her. She felt grateful. She had chosen trainers whom she trusted. People like David Walker would teach the team about digital displays, and Eddie Johnson, who would show how small actions of care in the service bays could make a big difference for customers. She spoke of the plans with clear, simple words, never rushing. She invited everyone to join the first session, starting in 30 minutes in the conference room. After she finished, employees lined up for coffee and pastries. Angela stepped down from the stage and greeted small groups. She thanked them for their ideas and their openness. A technician nodded and said, "I appreciate how you listened, Ms. Davis. It means a lot." Angela smiled and said, "Thank you. Your voice matters here." The first training session began soon after. Angela watched from the back of the room as David stood confidently at the front. He guided team members through the touchscreen displays, showing how to help customers learn features without rushing. People asked questions, and David answered patiently. Angela felt proud of his gentle teaching style. Next, Eddie led a group in the service area, demonstrated how to set up a clean work area, and how to greet each customer politely before any repair work began. He showed the team how a simple greeting and eye contact could build trust. Under his guidance, even the busiest technicians smiled and practiced the new steps. Meanwhile, in the parts room, Maria led a training on the new automated ordering software. She showed how the system could flag low-stock parts and send automatic orders. Her eyes shone as she demonstrated how much time this would save her and the technicians. The parts team cheered quietly when she finished. As the morning went on, Angela visited each session, offering quiet words of praise. She noticed a change in the atmosphere. People seemed more relaxed, more engaged. They laughed softly together, shared stories, and even joked about past frustrations. Angela felt hope that this sense of teamwork would grow. At noon, she gathered everyone back in the lobby for a small lunch celebration. Sandwiches, salads, and fruit lay on the tables. She raised a cup of coffee. "To our first day of training, and to many more moments of learning together," she said. The group raised their cups and smiled. They ate lunch while chatting in friendly clusters. Angela joined a small group of service technicians and talked about their hobbies and families. She learned that Eddie's daughter loved drawing cars, and that another technician played guitar on weekends. She shared how her niece painted pictures of cars, too. They laughed, feeling connected by simple human interests. After lunch, she headed to the showroom to meet with Ms. Reyes and discuss the plan for the customer videos. They stood by a sleek SUV under the showroom lights. Angela listened as Ms. Reyes described the shooting schedule. They talked about which customers to invite and which employees to feature. Angela suggested they start with people who had recently shared positive stories. They agreed to film the next week with Angela asking questions and listening as customers told their stories. They left the showroom excited to begin this project. Back at her office, Marcus greeted her with a folder. "Here are the reports. From Mr. Liu," he said. "They show we can save $15,000 a month by reducing rush fees." Angela smiled widely. "Excellent. Let's send these to the team and celebrate the savings at our next meeting." Marcus nodded. Pleased, she took a moment to look at her badge on the desk.
Oh.
It felt true to her role now. She had faced doubt and had turned it into an opportunity to grow. She had seen resistance and had transformed it into cooperation. She felt both humble and strong. In the late afternoon, Angela stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The parking lot glowed under the setting sun. A few cars moved slowly as customers left after service. An older couple walked hand in hand toward their sedan, smiling. She thought of how they would feel cared for, how they would tell their friends about the friendly greeting at the service bay and the smooth process. She felt proud that her team was making these moments happen. Inside, the receptionist called her name. A package had arrived, a small box from the board chair downtown. She opened it carefully. Inside was a framed photograph of the board meeting. When she was selected as CEO, under the photo, a small note read, "To our leader of change, thank you for proving that respect begins with listening." Angela held the frame close and felt tears of joy. She thought of the journey she had taken From waiting 3 minutes in the lobby to listening to her team and creating a new culture, she returned to her office and placed the frame on her desk. She sat behind the desk and wrote a quick email to the board, thanking them for their trust. Then she drafted a memo to the team, celebrating the first day of training and announcing the upcoming customer video project and the new parts system. She chose her words with care, aiming for encouragement and honesty. She hit send. As the office emptied for the day, Angela closed her laptop and stood. She took one last look at the showroom floor through the glass wall. The cars stood in neat rows, ready to serve more customers. The desks were empty now, but Angela knew behind each one was a person who cared. She walked out into the quiet lobby. The glass doors slid open as she approached. The receptionist smiled and said, "Good evening, Ms. Davis." Angela returned the smile, feeling a deep sense of belonging. She held the door for a late employee leaving and wished her a good night. The employee said, "Thank you, Ms. Davis. Have a great evening." Angela felt gratitude for this moment of mutual respect. Outside, the air was cool and the sky glowed, pink and purple. Angela took a deep breath and looked up. She felt calm and determined. She knew challenges would come, but today had shown her that, with listening and respect, anything was possible. She walked to her car, placed her folder inside, and slipped into the driver's seat. She stared at the dealership building one last time. It felt alive with hope and promise. She started the engine and drove away, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. And as the headlights swept across the entrance, she whispered, "Onward."